Zachary, I wanted to ask you about shooting in the water this much. Was this the most physically demanding role you've ever done?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I've done some physically demanding things, getting in, certain shape for certain roles like Shazam and, things like that, which are physically demanding on some level, but that's a completely different thing. That's more prep work than it is like in the midst of the performance. This and this was also partly why I did the movie, and I think the other gentleman might can speak to this as well, but um you want to have unique experiences. You want to be able to challenge yourself as an actor, as a man. You want to be able to say like, oh, I did this thing, I accomplished this thing. And so I knew we were stepping into something demanding. I didn't realize it was going to be as demanding as it was. And in fact, it wasn't or even originally going to be as demanding, because originally we were going to be shooting in a water tank in Louisiana, which would have been significantly warmer, I can
Yeah.
guarantee you. But we were in Malta, and we were in a water tank that was filled with ocean water that was very cold. And we were shooting almost exclusively nights, most of that time in the water tank. And we had wind machines and rain machines and wave machines and water cannons and cables that are jostling the boat on top of it already being jostled around. The hull of that boat, um, no grip whatsoever. We were constantly slipping and falling. But again, all of these things you channel into the performance, because this is at least a sliver of what the actual men in this experience were experiencing. And so as an actor, you can lean into that and you can say, okay, thank you. I will take that. I will use that. I mean, I think I probably busted my shins, I
Ugh.
don't know, a half a dozen times, just slipping and nailing my feet and my shins on the hull of the boat. That actually might have been the most, other than also probably taking in a little too much water in some of the choppy water scenes that we were doing. But yes, it was a grueling experience, and also there was never a moment where I felt like we weren't entirely covered and safe by all of our safety divers and our medics, and so it was a controlled chaos, but
I think we
a
had a
chaos
couple
nonetheless.
moments. We had a couple moments.
Did we? What were those moments?
Just like, well, Quentin and I can maybe speak to that. Like coming up from the water with the boat coming at us or getting thrown off, and I don't know.
That
There's
was
a couple times.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was a good match. Yeah.
The sacrifice was definitely worth it because it feels so realistic. It's so tense. It really helped the film. And Quentin, I'd love to hear your approach to playing a real life figure in Marquise Cooper, because you're really honoring his legacy and helping him live on. So how was it trying to put yourself into his shoes? Did you watch a lot of interviews or footage for him, or what was your approach?
Yeah. I did a lot of research online, what I could find of Marquise, and I was able to find some things. A group of his high school teammates made a video for him, and I honestly, some people from all around the school, I think, kind of just congratulating on him on going to Washington, University of Washington, and being able to play there. And other things of him in the NFL and such. And obviously the source material, the book. But I think the most important thing, I just wanted to leave myself open for uh, if there was something that's a little bit woo-woo spiritually that he might want to say through me. I just wanted that to be kind of an open vessel. And I wanted the most important, the thing that was most important to me in making this was that I didn't want it to be any worse on the people left behind, if you want to call it that, his father, the wife, the daughter, the people that were connected to him, that knew him, that already went through this traumatic uh, event of losing someone close to them. Um, I didn't want to make that any worse. And a lot of that you can't, it's out of your control, and you can't control how someone reacts to something, but I at least wanted to do my best in honoring his life, the life that he lived, not just the moment in the moments that were his last, truly the life that he lived. I have a very close connection to the sport of football. You know, I played it collegiately. I know a lot of people who went to the NFL, a lot of people who struggled in different training camps trying to make teams and stuff like that. So I know what that looks like, and I wanted to bring a very realistic portrayal of what it takes and the mentality and the mindset that it takes to be one of these people, just physically putting your body on the line with no real certainty, no guarantees. Like if you're one of these people in and out of training camp every year, like you're not guaranteed to make that 52, you know. And so it's a real hunger that you have to have day in and day out. And I wanted to honor that. I wanted to honor the man that I believe he was and heard he was from the research that I did. And yeah, like I said, just really wanted to do my best not to make anything any worse on people who knew him. Yeah.
That's really beautifully put. I think you achieved exactly that. And Terrence, I thought you really did a great job of showing the bond and brothership that all these men had during this fight for survival. How is it building the camaraderie with your castmates here? Because you guys are all stuffed onto this little boat. You know, there's not a huge set for you guys, so it seems like that would have helped you guys really get to know each other quickly.
Yeah, well, you couldn't help but because, between takes, we literally were freezing and we had to wait. So we had to sometimes hold each other. But then I said this a couple of times, like Marshall was a care bear. He always like came to your room and knocked on your room door, even though you didn't want to see him. And like, hey, let's go out to lunch. Let's go for lunch. Hey, let's go to the gym, even though he wasn't doing as much weight as I was doing. But yeah, it was very easy to become because, I say, with anybody, your first date should like push them in the water just to see what they really are like. And so when you're in the water, it was ugly. We saw each other in a real element that we couldn't fake. So I think camaraderie just came along to it. And then by the time we got on land that last week, we were so happy to be warm. It was just like a great party. So it was a really cool experience.
I love that. Marshall, you and Zachary have this really powerful conversation about religion and God in the film. That was one of my favorite scenes. How was it just shooting that back and forth? Because it's a rare moment where we kind of have people just sitting there and they can kind of theorize rather than fight for their lives like they've been doing the whole rest of the movie.
That particular scene was interesting because I think the rest of them with me and Zach, we really felt like we were working together. That one was tough because there's rain pouring down on us, and just between the wind and the rain and the elements, we actually couldn't hear each other very well. And we didn't want to have these big performances, we wanted to be grounded and real. And so I think that, and maybe you feel the same way, Zach, like we were kind of like, did he say his line? Okay, I think now I'm going to say my line. And then like it was definitely like hard to play off of each other because we're also back to back. We can't see each other. So it's very like isolating and we're just kind of trusting. I think we're on the same page, but yeah, that was an odd one.
I think you guys built that camaraderie where even if you couldn't hear each other, you guys kind of knew what performance you were giving. So it really turned off.
Especially, the other ones. I mean, they're just some really, really great scenes that, they're just very special to me. And that, and that's trusting, your partner. And anyway.
And
I'm speaking for Zach too. He feels the same way.
And Zach, my last question, this film, it's harrowing, it's heroic, it's this remarkable true story. What do you hope people really take away from Not Without Hope?
Well, the most practical application of it is, cut that anchor. And whether that's a literal, actual anchor on a boat where you're out fishing, or it's something philosophical in your life, like something that is weighing you down, that is taking you out of being here. And, I think that we all can learn a little bit of that lesson. There was just something so silly like, in hindsight, about Marquise not wanting to lose that last anchor. I mean, he's about to literally pick up and move his whole family across the country, maybe even sell that boat, who knows? Like, but it's like that we get, sometimes we're tripping over dollars, picking up pennies. Um, and I think that's certainly something. I think that, if people are looking for a movie that's going to keep them on edge, this is that movie. It definitely, like you said, it's harrowing. And I think knowing that it really happened makes it all the more harrowing. And last but certainly not least, I hope that they come away with hope. I hope that they recognize that, even in the midst of what is nothing but despair, watching your own friends pass before your eyes and feeling entirely alone against all odds, that if you hold on, and you can hold on a little bit longer and a little bit longer and a little bit longer and a little bit longer beyond that, that there is something on that other side. And that's what it was for Nick. And I know that he's grateful that he did, that he held on to that last shred of hope, and that his family did, and that Paula did. And so that's what I hope people take from it, is hope.